people, even after many enterprise digital transformation, struggle to understand the kind of deliverable as well as the preparation that they need to do to make sure that their organizations are going to be ready for the enterprise digital transformation. So that's exactly what we are going to discuss in this video. Hello everyone, my name is Sam Gupta. I am principal at Elevate IQ. Elevate IQ is the independent ERP and digital transformation consulting firm. We help our clients when they are getting ready for enterprise digital transformation in helping them write the strategy documents, making sure they are going to have enough details before they engage with any of the technical teams. So we help them with the business case analysis, making sure that they are going to be live successfully on these initiatives. So on that note, let's go back to today's topic, which is going to be top 10 deliverables for enterprise digital transformation readiness in 2023. So number one on our list is the business and strategic plan. Most of the time when any companies are going to start their digital transformation, they might be finance led, they might be IT led, and they don't have access to the business or a strategy plan. Sometimes these companies are going to think that these ERP implementations are supposed to be technical. So I don't know, why do I need to provide the business and the strategy plan? Think of the and the strategy plan or any sort of digital transformation as the way you are going to be planning for your operational capacity. When you plan for, let's say, a warehouse or site, you are going to have a little business model document that you are going to write. You are going to do a business case analysis, and that you need to do for the digital planning as well. In your mind, you are going to feel that all of the ERP systems are probably designed to be similar, but they are designed for a very specific transactional capacity for a specific size of the organization. So unless you define what the size is going to be that you are going to be hosting from your business model perspective, you cannot make the right decision. So that's why the business and strategy plan is going to be super critical. And in most cases, you are probably going to struggle in defining the to be state. But if you cannot define that, then it's going to be very hard to sort of build the consensus around why you are bringing this change, why you need to change the processes. What is the definition of success? What are you trying to accomplish by changing my workflow as the user on the shop floor? So it becomes very difficult unless you define that. And if you write it down, then that is going to help you understand not only your as is a state as well as the processes. It will also help you understand what you might be able to do from the to be perspective. And that's why the business and the strategy plan is going to be the first documentation. So the ingredients for the business and a strategy plan is going to be the business model as well as the SWOT analysis, and the customer and supply chain journey mapping, offering and bundle strategies, the strategic goals, a brief execution plan in terms of how you think this is going to be executed. The expected results is going to be very important as well, because that is going to define the success. Also, the financial model. So that's the business and strategy plan. Now, the number two on our list is the annual operating plan. The plan goes far deeper overall from the budgeting and planning perspective at each of the account level. And this is going to be the forecasted plan based on the goals that you have. The annual operating plan is going to capture everything from your warehouse expansion to your site, but the digital capacity planning is going to be critical component of this as well, in terms of estimating the transaction volume, in terms of estimating what processing capacity are you going to need. Sure, with cloud, you probably don't need to do that. In the traditional days, when you were on-prem, you need to estimate your capacity, because that would dictate how many servers do you need to buy, how many licenses do you need to buy. So the overall planning is not as difficult, but still the architecture matters even in the case of cloud, and you need to estimate the transactions. So some of the ingredients that are going to be there as part of your annual operating plan is going to be market, facility, site, product line, warehouse expansion plans, human resources plans, digital strategic plans. Then it's going to be expected transaction volume, KPIs, OKRs. This is going to be much more detailed at the role level as well as at the department level. And then the key planned activities. These activities are going to be in far more detail than your strategy plan. And then the stakeholder mapping as well, overall from the operations planning perspective. So that's number 2. Now, number 3 on our list is the KPI role compensation plan. And that is going to be as is and to be. So what you are doing as part of this is you are identifying each of the compensation component and how that is going to drive the behavior. Because compensation is going to be a major factor whether people are going to accept the change or not. So unless you align it with their personal goals, it becomes very hard. The ingredients for this particular plan is going to be the as is compensation and the compensation department and behavior mapping. So the more forecasting that you are going to do, the more things you can forecast and predict in terms of how these things are going to go, and then the mitigation plan accordingly, as in to be behavior and change impact analysis, how the change is going to impact them personally. So that's number 3. Now, number 4 is going to be role, department, system mapping. This is more of the org chart from the system perspective. You are defining the process boundaries, and this is going to form the foundation of change management. Because if people are not going to follow the instructions in terms of what is going to be their first system that they are using, and then what is going to be their second system, is that going to be a verification system or is that going to be an operational system? So you need to define all of these workflows and you need to map these to the users. So that is part of your training plan. You are sort of communicating all of these things from day one. So you are wrapping them up when you are going to go live. They already know that the expectation from my side is going to be, today I use, let's say, 3 different systems to complete my process. But when I am going to be in my to be model, I am looking at just one system and I am going to be entering this data. If I need to verify, I go to my second system. So the more documented workflows, the more training models you are going to have, the easier the implementation is going to be. The ingredients for the role, department, and system mapping is going to be the role department, as is and to be, communication plan on why change is necessary, and how each role would map, including the ownership of data sets, process boundaries for each role, and data interaction workflows. So those are going to be some of the ingredients that you may want to capture as part of this plan, and that's number 4. Now, number 5 on our list is the business case and the transformation roadmap. So here you are performing detailed analysis and trying to build the as is and to be process model as well as the solution architecture in terms of what is possible. So you might get a couple of options and you are going to be doing the ROI analysis of each of those options. And depending upon what you are going to select, you are going to build a little transformation roadmap in terms of what is going to be priority, what is going to be sequencing of all of these initiatives. When you are going to look at the annual operating plan, there are going to be a lot of different wish list that might not be possible technically or financially. So that's why this particular exercise is really important. What are some of the ingredients? High level analysis of each of the initiative, basic architectural documentation in terms of how these solutions are going to work, and then the ROI analysis of each of the solution, the potential solution and cost of each of the initiatives, buy versus build versus outsource analysis, and then the internal staffing versus the outsourced capabilities, who's going to do what. So you are going to design all of that, and then you need to compile the overarching cost of the entire initiative, KPIs and definition of success for each initiative. The definition of success and the KPIs are going to come from your annual operating plan. So if you have not done the annual operating plan, the definition of success might not be there. So that's number 5. Now, number 6 on our list is the change management plan. When you look at any of the changes could be as small as, let's say, the changing the SKU numbering scheme or the SKU number that is going to go on your packaging. this is going to have impact on your operational workflows. You need to have a plan for that. The implication could be on the vendor communication, customer communication, and when you are going to go live, you might have disruptions if you have not planned for all of these things. So not only you need to identify all of these changes, but you need to understand, okay, based on each of the change, what is the implication and what is going to be the cost of that change, because that cost of the change is going to drive whether the initiative that you have undertaken, initially you are looking at just in the boundary of that initiative, you have not identified the change, so you don't know which option is going to be more expensive or less expensive. Once you have analyzed the change management plan, then only you will know the true cost of your initiative. So that's why the change management plan is important. So what are the ingredients of the change management plan? That is going to be as and to be workflows, process maps, the change business case, as well as the roadmap, change implications on roles, users, risks, and the mitigation plans. So that's change management plan, and that's number 6. Number 7 on our list is the organizational ledger reconciliation plan. An organizational ledger reconciliation plan is super critical because when you are going to be operating in the siloed manner, sometimes you are going to make decisions. Hey, let's get this cloud system. This is really easy to use. It's going to be super easy to adopt for the users. I don't like the ERP systems because they are so difficult to use. But one thing that is missing in this argument is going to be, hey, if you utilize all of these best of breed systems, what is going to be the cost of reconciliation? And reconciliation is going to be for every single account, whether you are reconciling your inventory, whether you are reconciling your customer balances, whether you are reconciling any other things that need to be reconciled. And you need to make decisions whether it is going to be a real-time posting versus the batch posting. Some of the integrations are typically easier overall from the integration perspective. For example, let's say if you are looking at ERP and payroll integration, typically the journal entries that you are going to be posting in your financial system is going to be probably on a monthly basis. You don't have as many entries. You can probably post the summarized entry because you don't really care for the end-to-end traceability unless that is going to be required for your organization. But now, if you look for slightly more involved integrations, for example, ERP to e-commerce integration, each of the transaction that you are going to be performing is going to be reconciled with your ERP, and then you need to define the reconciliation ledger in terms of how many systems do you have as part of that e-commerce bucket. How many systems are going to contain the customer data? How many systems are going to contain the pricing data? How many systems are going to contain your inventory data? All of that is going to dictate what is going to be the cost of reconciliation. So if you build this plan, it's going to be much easier conversation to eliminate some of the complexity from the ledger perspective, and maybe you can have fewer systems in the architecture, and that is going to reduce the technical risk. That is going to reduce the overall implementation cost. Some of the ingredients of the ledger plan is going to be the ledger interactions. It's going to be impact on financial and statistical ledgers, near real time, batch, summary, detailed, all of these decisions that you need to capture as you design the model for all of these ledgers, and data ownership of KPIs as well as data marts. That all is going to be super critical. So that's number 7. Number 8 on our list is master data governance and reconciliation plan. The way your organizational ledger is for each of the account as well as the balances that you need to track across the cross-functional boundaries, the master data governance is going to be slightly more technical representation of the master data elements. And that is going to be any of your customer data set. And this is really the setup as opposed to the actual balance. So master data is going to be inventory data model. It's going to be the customer item master data model, the chart of accounts. All of these things are going to be the part of your master data governance. You need to understand the origins of each of the master data and what is going to be the augmentation journey. Even if you are, let's say, you create a data set in ERP system, and then you are going to augment that data set in your warehouse management system or TMS system or e-commerce system. Okay, you need to define a clear path in terms of who is augmenting and whether they are flattening or building a new hierarchy. If they are going to do that, if they need to send the data back, how is that data set going to be sent to ERP system? How is that traceability link going to be established with the change hierarchy? So you need to map all of this out. If you don't map, then you are going to get a lot of data quality issues. You are going to get a lot of communication issues between the systems. So that's why the data augmentation journeys are going to be super critical. Then processes for master data integrity. So even if you design something today, but you need to ensure the master data integrity as your business users are going to be getting newer scenarios. How do they incorporate those scenarios? For example, let's say you never had buying groups and now you need to incorporate buying groups as part of your business model. So how are you going to model that inside your data model? And sometimes this modeling might fire back because that might not be compliant with how it would be modeled in the other system. And let's say if they have either flattened or created an hierarchy in a way that the other systems are not going to expect, then you are going to get a lot of integration challenges. So that's why that master data governance plan and the coaching and training plan is going to be super critical as well. Some of the ingredients of the master data and governance and reconciliation plan is going to be data to your system mapping. Hierarchy changes. If you are doing any sort of hierarchy changes, the augmentation journeys at the field level, master data to use case mapping is going to be super critical as well. Admin and approval flow. And if you are going to be using any sort of MDM, then you need to have that producer to MDM and MDM to consumer mapping. That is going to be equally critical as well. So those are some of the elements of the master data governance and the reconciliation plan. That's number 8. Now, number 9 on our list is the process re-engineering plan. This is going to be in identifying the processes that are going to be re-engineered, and that is going to drive your enterprise architecture. That is going to dictate how much over engineering you are going to require, how much customization is going to be required. Is that customization really necessary, or is it really the symptom of your broken processes or the incorrect data that you had modeled? So that's where the process re-engineering plan is going to be super critical. It is going to align each of those re-engineering candidates with your budget in terms of what you can afford, or you need to have some other plan. So regardless of whether you solve problem using technology or by simplifying your processes, you still need to understand the cost of each of those, and you need to evaluate what is going to be easier. The impact of processes of re-engineering on customer facing workflows, or maybe branding or market share. It could be anything. So you need to analyze the impact of that as well, and whether you are willing to concede on those things or not. So even if you are able to solve these things technically, but if you are going to have impact on the customer workflows, then that might not be okay with your business users. So either they need to agree or you need to figure out a plan for that. So that all is captured as part of your process re-engineering plan. The ingredients for the process re-engineering plan is going to be cutover and training plan for the current users. You need to have the mark scripts, framework to enforce readiness and training. So you need to have some sort of framework to make sure that people have really tested, they have really understood what change is going to mean when they are going to be operating on the new system. So that's part of this plan. So that's number 9. Now, number 10 on our list is the enterprise architecture plan. So enterprise architecture plan is going to be developed based on all of these plans that we have mentioned before. It aligns the tech teams. Whatever vision you have as part of your process re-engineering or data re-engineering, the technical teams need to know about these things. What is going to be your as model and to be model? So enterprise architecture plan is going to align them on the changes as well, and give them the visibility in terms of what you are trying to accomplish from the business perspective, so that they can forecast things that you have not thought of. And sometimes they are going to come up with scenarios where a technical solution might not be the best fit, and or it might turn out to be more expensive than you had initially planned. But if we don't provide them the visibility, they might not be able to recommend that. It also aligns the strategy, execution, quality, and the KPI, reassesses the business case, identifies any sort of red flags, and set boundaries for each of the system in how the integration is going to work. So this is a very detailed planning in terms of the interfaces, the data mapping. Ingredients for the enterprise architecture plan is going to be detailed documentation of data, pseudocode, and this pseudocode is going to be more from the business perspective that your technical teams are going to take, and they are going to be mapping and then you might have the review process in making sure that they understood what you had written as part of pseudocode. So you need to have a little compliance process there to make sure that they are not assuming things in their head and they are coding something different than what you had instructed them to do. So that's where the at least the business rule pseudocode is going to be super critical to capture as part of your enterprise architecture plan. Mapping of each of the interfaces, documented requirement matrix, and that is going to drive all of the user stories, the agile planning that you are going to have as part of your implementation. It's going to help you in scheduling all of these stories or the requirements that you need to either test, configure, or develop as part of your implementation sprints. So all of that is going to be based on the requirement matrix, and then documented quality and the release plan in terms of how this functionality is going to be released across your sites, facilities, systems, and then production training, as well as the detailed migration plan. Those are all the ingredients of the enterprise architecture plan. If you enjoyed this video, we are going to include the link for a detailed article in the description, so make sure you guys check that out. Also, if you enjoy the audio format a lot more, this podcast is also available on Google, Spotify, and Apple, so you might want to check there. And if you have not checked our digital transformation report for 2023, we are going to include the link, so check that. And we publish these videos on a weekly basis. And if you want to subscribe on YouTube, on that note, thanks for tuning in. I'll see you in the next one.